Chairman. Admiral, as you and I have talked about before, I'd like to get clarification on one statement that was, I think, misrepresented. It was in the Boston Globe, reported that you indicated, and I'm quoting now from the Boston Globe, the biggest long-term security threat in the Pacific region is climate change. Now, I'd like to have you clarify what you meant by that, because I want to follow up with a couple of things here.
Well, thanks for asking that question. I'm happy to have the opportunity to clarify it.
Well, I say that because a lot of the people who are trying to use that and use your statement are the very people who think we're spending too much money on defense and that money should be spent in other areas. And some of the environmentalist extremists don't really believe we need to have that strong of a military, as strong as we have right now, in spite of the hits that we've taken militarily. But go ahead.
As you might expect, I give 100 or so interviews over the last year. And during those interviews, I can assure the committee that I always start by talking about the most pressing military threats that we have. North Korea, the rise of powers in the region, transnational threats, all the things that Chairman Levin laid out in his opening remarks quite well. And in this particular case, I did the same. Then we started to talk about the long term, the long term, and what are the implications of it. And I'd clarify my perspective this way. In the Indo-Asia Pacific region, as we go from about, projections are we're going to go from about 7 billion people in the world to about 9 or 10 by this century, and about 70% of them are going to live in this part of the world. And about 80% of them today live within about 200 miles of the coast. And that trend is increasing as people move towards the economic centers, which are near the ports and facilities that support globalization. And so we're seeing that trend of people moving into littoral areas. We are also seeing, if you go to USAID and you ask the numbers for my PACOM AOR, how many people died due to natural disasters from 2008 to 2012, was about 280,000 people died. Now, they weren't all climate change or weather related, but a lot of them were due to that. About 800,000 people were displaced, and there was about $500 billion of lost productivity. So when I look and I think about our planning and I think about what I have to do with allies and partners, and I look long term, it's important that the countries in this region build the capabilities into their infrastructure to be able to deal with types of things.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you here because you've now used up half my time, and we didn't get right around to it. Is it safe to say that in the event that this the climate is changing, which many of the scientists disagree with, in fact, when the Boston Globe, coming out of Massachusetts, made that statement, perhaps arguably one of the top scientists in the country, Richard Lindzen, also from Massachusetts, MIT, said that was laughable. Let me just put it this way. In the event that well, first of all, CRS has told us that we could be totally independent from all other countries in terms of providing our own energy if we just develop our own resources. I believe that's to be true. Wouldn't it be a more secure world, and specifically in your area, if we not only were totally independent, but were able to supply our allies in your jurisdiction with their energy so they don't have to depend on other sources?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, let me